Happy Monday everyone and welcome to FTV Mondays. So I'll be honest with you, I really didn't want to make this video. I had such high hopes for this movie and truth be told this franchise is shattered in my mind. I'm talking about Star Wars Last Jedi today, or should I say Star Wars The Last Movie, and yes, this video will contain spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, do so to form your own opinion, but I would suggest just watching it online and saving your money. Moving on, what the heck was this crap? I looked past all the bad things in The Fart Awakens and really wanted to enjoy this new direction they were heading in. I just wish it was 2007 all over again where George Lucas said that this was the end of Star Wars. First off, like The Fart Awakens, this is just a bad remake of The Empire Strikes Back but shot in reverse order. So instead of having the battle on Hoth leading up to Bespin, you have crappy Casino World leading to the tier salt mines of Star Wars fans known as Crate. From the start of this movie, it's just incomplete nonsense. It's like the director had no desire to direct, and personally I cannot understand why they would allow someone with virtually nothing in their portfolio to direct a blockbuster such as Star Wars. Honestly, name something other than a few episodes of Breaking Bad that he did worthwhile that people would recognize. Moving on, let's get started with Snoke, this all-powerful supervillain that was being built up so much since the time the crap awakens. He died just as soon as he was introduced. He's cut in half by Kylo Ren with little to no effort. No epic force battle, no lightsaber duel, nothing. Just some ragdoll tossing around and that's it. Kylo flips a switch on the lightsaber and poof, there goes a possible storyline of Snoke. This to me just seems like a wasted character that as of now up to this point in time served as nothing other than screen filler to stretch out the movies. Now let's talk about the fact that Maz Kanata is apparently needed in every Star Wars movie. Her inclusion serves no purpose other than to brag about interspecies relationships, and I think what's most bothersome to me is as of now we have never seen Poe and her talking, so now magically they are acquainted. Now I know, yeah, they could have met in some backstory, but for how big the galaxy is to rely on one person to give you information regarding a hacker and just to throw it all together as they knew each other just seems like a shot in the dark to me. Moving on, there's Laura Dern. I really do enjoy her as an actress and I liked her in Jurassic Park, however her Hunger Games styled character and also her kamikaze run out of fuel mission serves no point. The First Order could have easily jumped ahead of her and stopped this crazy movie-long chase. This to me was by far the most boring and longest scene for a Star Wars movie ever, even more so than listening to the politicking of the prequels as a kid and not understanding what they were saying. Also, what was up with the ship running out of fuel and blasting off into a different direction? Star Wars asks us to bend reality a lot, but for me that was just a complete WTF moment. So speaking of WTF, let's talk about Luke's nipple scene. Well, the whole planet in general. The Porgs to me are worse than Jar Jar Binks, and the fact that there are so many of them seen so often is complete overkill. You don't do market research to create what you think will be a viral character that tops everyone's Christmas list. You make a character and let people discover their love for them in the movie. I don't think I'll ever get the annoying sound the Porgs make out of my head. Chewie even goes as far as to roast one of these little bastards up while another one looks on, and in a look that anyone can define, the Porg says to Chewie, "What the fuck?" Besides from the Porn Puffins, we have the Frog Nuns who Luke's been shacking up with and living off the land for these past few years. And during this time, we see what Luke does on a day-to-day basis, and apparently one of the things that he does is he goes up to these giant giraffe, sloth, manatee-looking elephant creatures that lay on the beach and he just sucks on their tit. Yes, that's right, Luke Skywalker goes up and sucks on the tit of this strange-looking creature that you see on the screen right now, just like Disney is attempting to do to our wallets just a little bit more. I now understand why Mark Hamill said what he did about being in complete disagreement about everything Luke Skywalker related in this movie. The humor in this movie was like the god-awful elevator joking we saw in episode 3, but on steroids. Luke, well, let's just say the shattered form of his former existence, ends up having a Jedi heart attack while turning himself into a ghost and dies. That's right, the main hero of episodes 4 through 6 turns himself into a ghost and projects himself across the galaxy to save the Resistance just in the nick of time, and then he dies. All alone on a rock, planets away, having a heart attack. There's no other way to describe it. Luke has a heart attack and dies. Surrounded by Porgs laughing it off in the distance, and that new sea creature's chafe nipples thanking whatever god it prays to that Luke won't be abusing its body any longer, Luke Skywalker just dies. He falls over, grabs onto the rock, struggles, and lets the heart attack win. He fades into the existence with a scene of his floppy robe having worse effects than when Vader defeated Ben in episode 4. To me, this just seemed like the biggest shot in the dark, especially considering we saw stuff like Darkseid users making spirits of themselves like this before, but it was removed from canon. To reintroduce it in this way was nothing more than a joke. Speaking of jokes, how about Captain Planet? I mean, Captain Phasma. The character can't seem to get more than a few minutes of screen time before being thrown into the trash or blown up in this movie. Cool costume, great backstory, but why even bother Disney? Seriously, Disney, why did you even bother making something that cost you so much money to make a backstory on, only to destroy it within 60 seconds of total on-screen movie time? Going back to the topic of projections, now magically Kylo Ren and Rey have this long-distance Force connection that seems to defy the powerful connection between Luke and Leia. Twins being able to use the Force to communicate over a great distance seems believable, but this connection, especially considering we find out that Rey is officially a nobody and not a Skywalker, seems even more impossible. I'd believe this more if they said that Kylo Ren and Rey were cousins, or even more so if they were brother and sister and Kylo Ren had done some weird brainwashing thing to make Leia and Han forget about their child. But speaking about twins, what the hell happened to Leia? All of a sudden, a Force-sensitive human can survive in space without air for a long period of time. That to me was just stupid. Everything about that scene felt out of place, especially her Mary Poppins trip back to the ship. You're saying since the time that the Clone Wars ended and the execution of Order 66 that this mass number of Jedi that survived somehow managed the ability to develop space skills. Also, what is up with that new B-Wing bomber with the rolling balls like the ship from the Guardians of the Galaxy? How is the door supposed to open in space without no ray shield that prevents a person standing there from suffocating or being sucked out? Staying on the topic of Jedi though, what was up with Yoda? Was it just me, or was his on-screen performance as bad as the puppetry of him in Episode 1? Seriously, what was wrong with Yoda? It looked like whatever he had been doing in the afterlife had taken more of a toll on him than seeing countless younglings slaughtered than living in a swamp for 20 plus years. 20 plus years, that's almost as long as it's been since we saw Han's golden dice in Episode 4, yes, those same dice that never appeared again until Luke swiped them off the Falcon's rearview mirror while Chewie was cooking porgs. It's nice to see 3PO got his golden arm back, so I guess that whole backstory about a droid who risked his life and 3PO wearing an arm to honor his sacrifice was pointless. Now, we can't talk about 3PO without R2-D2, and he finally gets to see Luke, which was something else that made no sense. R2 was hibernating until they could find Luke in The Fart Awakens. Now he was sitting on the Falcon the entire time with Luke located just up the hill from him, and he never turned on or never left the ship to find him. I guess R2's sensors and jetpack don't exist anymore. The character Benicio del Toro played to me was just a bad remake of Lando Calrissian if Lando Calrissian never saw through the problems he created. The whole casino scene and the creatures filling it tried too hard to recreate the Mos Eisley Cantina on Bespin in my opinion. Speaking of Bespin 2.0, what was up with the orphans there? I realize they are the next Force-sensitive generation, but why would you introduce them like this? Especially considering they were the final shot of the movie. Yes, that's right, the movie does not end with a Skywalker in frame. It ends with some random orphan kid sweeping a street. It seemed almost fitting to have the salt battle at the end of the movie just as a way to rub salt into all the wounds this movie cut into my love of Star Wars. And now we are led to believe that what is left of the entire Resistance exists solely on the Falcon. All in all, this was the most disappointing movie I've ever seen. It's apparent that J.J. Abrams' ideas did not flow into this new director's head and that they'll allow anyone to write a script for Star Wars. I'm sure you could have given a 7-year-old kid a budget of $500,000 and they would have created a better movie. The fact that they're throwing all these new characters at you isn't as bothersome as the fact that they expect you to know what their backstory is even when the creators haven't made it. I honestly can't see how the franchise can recover from this. Episode 9 will in no way be able to fix the sinking ship as there has been far too much damage done. Everything that made Star Wars so interesting and believable has been changed around and redone. Not every man, woman, and child needs to be a hero. Stories need main characters and people who support them. Trying to make a movie where you want everyone to love everything doesn't work. I'm sorry, Star Wars. I'm sorry, George Lucas, but I really hope you choke on that check from Disney. You took something that you guarded so closely for so long, then gave it to the one company who would destroy it. Disney can't own everything and have everything be good or even decent. How many Marvel movies have they pumped out since acquiring them? To be honest, I don't even think I can name a third of them, and I consider myself a huge Marvel fan. But I consider myself an even bigger Star Wars fan, and to not have any interest in this movie is something that I never thought would be possible. From the magical color-changing kyber crystals to the fat sea elephants shooting blue milk out of their nipples onto Luke's beard, that's it for me. I'm sorry, Star Wars, you'll always have a place in my heart, but after this movie, I don't think I'll ever watch past Episode 6. Like the Emperor falling down the Death Star shaft, I too am ready to jump in the abyss and hopefully wake up from this nightmare that has arisen from my favorite franchise of all time. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you enjoyed the movie, let me know down below. I can't be the only one that feels this way about this movie, and as of recording it, the movie somehow still has 8 out of 10 stars on IMDb, and it's continuing to go lower. Either way, I'll see everybody on Wednesday for Adventure Wednesday. Thank you for watching. Peace.